Favorite scene and favorite storyline?
Oh man, my favorite scene that I shot, it was in season 4. I think it was episode like 6 or something. So in Georgia, the child labor laws are set to where children can't touch guns, understandably, on set until they're 14. And so up until that point, I had been using like a rubber gun, or like I had been like faking it every time. But my 14th birthday was coming up, and in the next script that we got for like the episode, it had the scene where they were at the prison and the zombies were like breaching the fence, and Carl like mowed all of them down with machine guns. And I read that in the script and I was like, yo, they're gonna have me. I'm actually gonna shoot like an M16, like actually load it. And yeah, and sure enough, it got to the day of shooting it, and it was like the night like before my birthday, and we shot everything else that we had needed to shoot, and we just sat around and waited for like an hour until we could like shoot the rest of the scene. And so then like the entire like crew and cast that was there, everyone started counting down, and then hit midnight and everyone cheered and they handed me the gun, and Andy was like, he knighted me with the machine gun, the guy played Rick, and he was like, give this man some bullets, and we just went blasting into the night. It was so great.
That's a typical American's 14th birthday.
Yeah.
They go, yeah, fire a machine gun. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. The favorite storyline, I really loved just the 4th season in entirety. It was like the first time they really, not the first time, but they really gave my character a defined arc from start to finish. And he was in a completely different place in season 3 as well. So it was really cool.
My favorite scene, I have a few, but I can easily like pick them up. My first episode was really fun with Rick and Dale chasing me around, because it was a nice like different style for that episode. Like there'd been so much like blood and guts and destruction the episode before, and then that one like struck a new tone, which was really fun. And then I had my fight with Lenny. What's his character's name? Morgan. Basically, Lenny and I had a fight. No, my fight with Morgan was really fun because we worked really hard on that, and I was really looking forward to like both the martial arts guys having a fight. And then my last scene fighting the walkers, and then my spoiler death scene in the show was really fun. Storyline, I mean, it's probably not my own. Like there was some really great character arcs throughout the show. Weirdly, I didn't think it was a great decision that Carl died, but I really liked how they handled the end of it, and it made me like really shocked. Like when he just killed himself, and like when Rick and Michonne was sat outside, and like you just heard the gunshot, and I was like, oh my god, that is so messed up. But I kind of liked that the show went there with those kinds of things, and like even though it was sad that Carl died and whatever you might think about that, the way they did it was like pretty intense and still shocking. And I kind of like how the show could still be shocking even that late into the run. So that was cool. Although he did take a hell of a long time to die, so it was a nice relief when he just shot himself.
You're right, totally right. I read the script, and you know, because I always imagined, I was like, you know, if Carl were to die in the show, I want explosions, I want gunfire, I want like some sort of epic victory. And I read the script for the episode that like he reveals the bite. I got my explosions, I got my gunfire, and he saves all of Alexandria. So I'm happy with it.
Round of applause for that. The best way to go.
That dude, he like showed up every day to set, knowing every single word on the page of the script. He even knew like my lines and like everyone else's lines. It was insane. And he's the most prepared actor that I've ever met. Like just such a genuine, awesome guy. Yeah, I was so lucky to work with him for as long as I did. And yeah, I wish I could see him more often. You can answer that too then.
I can't answer that question. I actually worked with him on a production of Wuthering Heights just before he got cast in Walking Dead. He played my uncle. And Wuthering Heights is like this super British, like northern thing. Northern. God, that's terrible. I shouldn't. And with Tom Hardy, who was in that. And so we were in this very, very British thing. And then I got this job to join Andy on that in like 6 years after he had been running. And when I first went to set, he was there, and they were shooting this big sequence in Alexandria where the walkers break in and stuff. And we had a conversation, and he's so great. And I learned this when I went to do lead on another show. Like, it's so awesome when you welcome people onto the show that they're on, and you make them feel welcome, and then everyone wants to do the best job. So he came over and we had a chat. But the weirdest thing about it is that we're also both from the same city, Bath, in England. But Andy stays in his accent when he's working in America, and I didn't want to mess him up, so I stayed in my accent as well. So you had these two very British people talking to each other in American accents about their kids and like their life back home, which I thought was incredibly bizarre. But then that was kind of my welcome into the show. It was like, okay, so you are Andy, but you're also a lot of Rick now. And that was kind of a, you know, he puts the cowboy boots on and like he has his little walk that he does, and I'm like, whatever. He also spat on the floor a lot. He had a few things which like really got him into character, which is great, you know, whatever gets you there. But
He would like scream sometimes. Like,
sometimes, like when I arrived, my first sequences, everyone was screaming. Like Andy would scream before takes to like be in the character, and then everyone else started screaming, and I was like, wow, this is a mad set to be on. But because the energy of that set was very particular to that set. But it produced the show, it produced the great performances, and honestly, I really think that Andy, and as much as awards don't matter, I do think that Andy should have got more recognition for that, because he worked so hard and did so many great scenes and sequences on that show, and a lot of them including Chandler as well, and I think it's a bit of a travesty that he never got recognised for that. It is at the beginning, but I mean, I live in America and I've lived there for a while now, and so you're just surrounded by Americans the whole time, and so I'm kind of used to it now. But what I did learn when I went over is that if you go into a meeting and use your British accent and you meet a casting director, however good your American accent is, they'll still think they can hear it. So I started doing this thing which I always thought was a bit like, okay. But I started going into meetings doing my American accent, and it works. And they think you're American. They're like, how have I never met you before? And you're like, okay, this is weird. And I mean, most Americans think I'm American now, which is pretty funny. I'm about to do another job where I play British, and I think it's going to be quite fun for some people. They're like, oh, and people still meet me in America now. And they're like, oh my God, you're British? I'm like, yes. But it's cool, it means I did my job well, and that's fun, you know.
I'm laughing at that. Oh my God, that was very good, very valid.
Yeah, well, I got, they gave me one of the original hats that Andy wore in the first season, which was really cool. I mean, they have like 6 of them, but I got one of them, which was really cool. And then they also gave me a framed version of one of the shirts that I had worn in the first season, like Science Dog, like t-shirt that I had worn in the first season. So I got like that in like a frame and a hat, which was really, really cool.
I think it's anything. Nothing. Well, you know, a lot of my stuff, like I had, like the one thing that I would want to keep was like my big green, like leather coat, which is really cool. But they only made one of them, and they won't give it to me because they like to, you know, keep all that kind of stuff. I mean, some of the stuff is in the Smithsonian Museum in America, which is this like enshrined museum where they put special things. So like Daryl's crossbow is there, and one of the hats is there or something.
Probably mine. Probably the one that I actually wore.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So like, I actually didn't get to keep anything. But whatever.
Yeah, I remember actually I was there for the last day of shooting, and I was really trying to like smooth talk one of the producers. I was like, so listen, you know, the show was a big part of my life. It'd be so cool hold on to my hat that I wore, or even like the holster that I had. It'd be pretty cool. And I was like, oh, we'll see. I haven't heard from him. That was like 4 months ago. So,
Oh, you went for the actual last day.
Yeah.
Oh wow, cool.
It was so bad. It was terrible. I was looking forward to like getting Carl's eye shot out so much because it's such a big thing in the comic books, and I was just so stoked to do it and go through with it. And I found out that it was happening on the show, and I could not have been more excited. And then I wore the eye patch for 1 day, and I realized how terrible the next few years of my life were going to be on the show. And it was really rough. You have not experienced true fear until you're in the middle of the scene. You have the eye patch, and you hear a bee or a wasp like buzzing like next to you. You can't see it, you can't react to it because you're in the middle of the scene, and you're sitting there terrified, just trying to hold it together. Terrible.
Didn't you aim a gun with your eye?
Yeah. So the thing is, we switched the holster to my left leg because I was when we were first doing it, I was like really passionate about it. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool, I should start trying to learn how to like shoot with my left hand, hold a gun with my left hand. And then we got to like the bigger guns and everything, and it was like a season later, like, screw it, no one's gonna notice, right? And then of course, like, it's in the next day, it's like all over the internet, and I'm like, okay, well.
Yeah, you can't aim with an eye you don't have.
I know, yeah. I really hoped that no one would notice, but they did. Well, so they didn't want to give us like they wanted us to make us kind of look like we know what we're doing, but not too much because Carl, he's a kid, he wasn't supposed to be an expert in firearms training, but his dad was a cop, so like he would have gotten some sort of like, it would have at least looked like he had held a gun before. But they showed us how to hold a gun, how to look cool holding a gun, and that was the main thing. Because we're a lot of times we're just shooting blanks, and so the main thing is just don't point it at anybody. Don't aim, like never point it at people. So
there's I mean, there was times on the show which everyone's obviously having a lot of fun shooting all these guns and everything. But there's a lot of stuff on the show that's like, okay, it's a TV show, so it doesn't matter. So like when Daryl like fires a rocket launcher, and then it's just like, yeah, fire a rocket launcher. Okay, sure. Like you're definitely going to be able to do that for the first time ever in your life, and not get blown off your feet or like, But there are moments like that in the show where like, yeah, Daryl did not do intense army training and learn how to fire a rocket launcher, but managed to use it. And like, the hardest thing is sometimes, well, and actually most times now, we fired a lot of blanks at times, so there's actual like cartridges coming out. But towards the end of my time, they started doing a lot more computer generated, so you don't feel the kickback on the gun. So you have to do like a lot of kind of faking firing, and that's actually the harder part of it. Like the firing the real bullets and stuff, apart from the fact that it would completely deafen you. Like a lot of the stuff that you watch on television is like complete rubbish. Like it's not true. Like you can't fire a gun inside and not be completely deafened. But on The Walking Dead we had sequences where we're all firing machine guns and no one is screaming in pain as their ears bleed. It's like, it's completely stupid. It's crazy. But so then a lot of it was towards the end was like trying to figure out how to look like you're firing a gun without it firing. Which is something you have to learn,
We do take on that show though, like firearms were never a joke. Like we always,
oh yeah, never.
Yeah, like we always made sure that everyone knew that the guns were unloaded, and every single shot that came out of the guns, the actors, the ADs, everyone would shake the bullet to make sure that we know that it's a blank before firing it. So it was all, we made sure that it was super safe and everyone was on the same page. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun too, yeah.
It's gotta feel pretty cool.
Everyone wants to know what it's like working with Norman. Well, I don't know. He's cool, I guess.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I feel like he's a lot quieter, like on
Yeah.
set than his persona that he puts on to the crowd. He's like kind of keeps more to himself, but
He's pretty dorky. Norman can be pretty dorky.
Yeah. He's got like his camera, and he's got like I don't know. But I think like the most different thing is that his voice is like way higher pitched than it usually is on the show. Like he's all like down here, but like real, he's kind of up here, hanging out. Yeah. But he's a cool guy. He's fun to work with.
It's a Comic-Con exclusive. You didn't know that?
Steven is fantastic. Yeah, he was so much fun to work with. He was so funny, and yeah, he was for the longest time on the show. He was like the person who was like closest in age with me on set. So it was kind of cool having like having someone like that around. Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
We have the same birthday, actually, although I'm a year older than him. But he's really nice, but he was the reason he died. No, did he not? He died the season I came on. Oh yeah, we did have a few scenes together, yeah. Which was great, but he was all loved up with Maggie, and so we didn't really have that much together. But when I first joined the show, it was all still really secret, and everyone had code names. So you had to come up with your own code name, and they were like hiding me with umbrellas and all this kind of stuff. And then the fans got wind that I was coming on the show because Steven followed me on Instagram. And that's how everyone found out, and then unfollowed me. and we didn't get into trouble, but I was like, oh, I think we might have screwed this up. Yeah. But he's doing so well right now. He just got nominated for an Oscar, and he's just in the new Jordan Peele movie, and he's a great guy, really great guy.
It's crazy how people pay so much attention to social media and
Oh my
spoilers.
God, especially the Walking Dead fans. I think it was a good introduction to what the world is like now. Because The Walking Dead had so much focus, and there was a lot of social media stuff, I think it really gave us a window into what the world was going to be. And now, I think if you're on social media, it's easy for some people to forget, but I don't think we'll ever forget because we had that intense focus on our social media. I mean, you got hacked a few times and everything got shut down, but then you just gained your millions of followers again. But yeah.
What's your opinion on social media? Helpful, harmful?
I don't know. I mean, I've over the last couple of years, I've tried to just kind of distance myself from social media. I think I posted 3 times in the last year or something. So I've just tried to kind of just take a step back and just not have so many eyes on my private life. You know what I mean? Just because, But yeah, I think it's great for people to be connected with each other. But I think it's after a while, it's just tiring of just having to, just feeling an obligation to keep up this image,
Well, if you read the comic books, they both live till the end. But there is in the comic book, what happens? What's his role in the comic book?
It's been
yeah, I haven't read it
the last issue. Yeah. I mean, Carl, he's just like a dad, he lives on a farm, and him for what he has some sort of position in the city that's in town.
Doesn't it end up he's reading the story, telling the story?
Yeah. But I can't remember what
Jesus just has a fabulous time with Aaron. They're just fabulous together. And sometimes he kicks people's asses. That's just the way it goes. But he's always very fair about it. I mean, the point that Jesus arc was kind of that he was an outsider and then came in and worked more with the Hilltop, and I think that became, he saw the value in that. So I would imagine he's I think he's still the scout. He's really good at that for wherever he's living. But I don't think he's a big leader still. I don't think so. I think they're both successful members of society.
Question.
He's on gravel for 12 hours.
They didn't give you knee pads?
So at first I was I don't need knee pads. I'm oh, I'll be fine. I'm tough. I'm 16.
That's very Walking Dead, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot when you join the show, everyone's like, "Welcome to the Walking Dead." And you're like, okay, but there's a lot of that, like kind of, "Oh, you want to punch me? Just punch me." Or like, okay. Like with my first time on set, like there's a big fight that happens at the hilltop, and Andy is having a big fight, and I'm standing there like this British guy, just like, "Okay, when's the stuntman coming?" No stuntman. Like Andy, the lead of the show, is throwing himself around on the set, and I mean, I'm surprised he was ever allowed to do any of that kind of stuff. Because normally you don't get allowed, because if you get hurt, then they can't film the show, you know. But Walking Dead, everyone did their own stuff. So kneeling down in the gravel is like, yeah, we're going to kneel down in the gravel. What are you, some kind of wimp? But then, so this is how it started.
Yeah, well, yeah, about, I think at lunch, like 6 hours into filming, we all went back to our trailers, and we all put on knee pads, because it was rough. But it was really, like, because as a huge fan of the comics, like that scene is so monumental, and so being there, like in that scene, and watching Jeffrey Dean Morgan like go around and do the whole speech that's like straight out of the comics, it was so cool. It was as sad as that whole thing, as that whole sequence was. It was some of the best like 2 episodes of television that we did on the entire show, and yeah, it was really cool.
Great questions from all of you guys. Thank you so much.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, we see so many of these people like at the same conventions over time. So for me, it's always fun to like see some of the same people and be like, "Hey, what's up?" And get to see. Actually, I haven't seen Tom in like years, so it's always really cool to see other cast members from Walking Dead. So that's cool.
I had John Rhys Davis is here, and I did a con with him a few years ago. And I'm a huge Indiana Jones fan, and so is my brother. And I was like, "Oh, John Rhys Davis here, do you want an autograph?" And my brother was like, "Oh yeah, amazing." So I went up to John, and he's lovely, and I was like, "Oh, I want to get an autograph from my brother, and could you sign it, blah, blah, blah." And then he finished signing it, and then he looked at me and went, "And would you like one?" And I went, "Yes." It was so weird. Like, sometimes people, like, reach out from your childhood, and you're not really expecting it, but I've seen Indiana Jones like 100 times, and I don't know, there's just something like, and I wasn't even trying to be cool and like not ask for one, but I didn't realize how much meeting him and him just talking to me would affect me, and it was great. And then we went out for drinks later, so it's pretty cool.
Surreal, yeah.
Yeah,
We just
amazing.
love hearing that celebrities also have fan moments too.
It's one of the coolest things about these things is that we kind of have a bit of a window into, because we're like, you know, doing the same thing at the convention, so we can be, just a bit more pally, and it's really cool. Yeah, it's one of the best things about doing these things, apart from the traveling. Like, I've been to Japan and Australia and like all these places and meeting all fans. We were just saying earlier on, like, you meet the same people all around the world. Like, it's just really cool. Like, everyone's just a big fan of the show and really fun to meet. So yeah, we love it. Thank you, Manchester.
Thank you. I was going to say, any final words for your fans here in Manchester before we let you get over to the autograph area?
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much for coming out, meeting us, and being here. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, please